Good morning. We're back
Yep.
and we're excited to be back, right?
Woo!
All right. Well, it's 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. And we'll go ahead with our agenda with our 10 o'clock item, and that would be our treasurer, Lisa Frazier. I don't see Lisa on here. Mackenzie or Diane, can you give Lisa a call?
I just got a hold of Lisa and she'll be right here. Commissioner Trask, would you like to jump out of order?
Let's do. So let's go with Chief Bakken. I see you're on here. So let's go ahead. If you'd like to brief us on what you've got going. And I read that article that you sent from the Kitsap Sun, and way to go. I think you're doing amazing, but I'll give you praises after you do your presentation.
Thank you. Yeah, that was the front page of the Kids Have Sun on Sunday. And so one of the things that I talked about was hopefully getting an opportunity to brief the commission because one, I do thank the commission. There was the competitive ARPA grant process. And what was really difficult in that process was to try to take this idea that we had and have since implemented and put it into a paragraph and try to convey what it is that we're trying to do up here because it's really outside of the normal scope for a fire protection agency. And so but one of the things that we did, and we'd started even pre-COVID, and we started with a community paramedic model, and what that essentially entailed was taking a paramedic that would go out in the community and really respond to your lower acuity calls, not necessarily life-threatening or super urgent, but there is a need there that needs to be addressed. And so we looked at that particular model. We ran into all kinds of challenges and issues. They were relatively newer, so I think it was hard to understand exactly, how would these work in a community. And so it just kind of ran out of steam. And then lo and behold, all of a sudden COVID pops up and it was a game changer. And it got this idea back on the board as we saw emergency rooms fill up. We saw, certainly a lot of flu-like symptoms that were taking place that were related to COVID. And all of a sudden we just sat there and said, you know what, maybe this idea that we visited could kind of get put into hyperdrive. And instead of looking at a community paramedic, looking at a mid-level provider, i.e. a physician associate. So we took a look at our data, and what we found was over the last 5 years, our volume in North Mason, as far as what we've responded to, is up over 30% in that 5 years. And a lot of that is to growth and certainly a lot of people moving into our area. But one of the things that we did is we did a deeper dive into that data to find out that when you look at that 30%, if you look at the increase in ALS, what we call paramedic life-threatening, they got to get involved. Truly, 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 seconds mean the difference between life and death. That increase over the last 5 years was actually pretty negligible. It's a slight tick up, and so what that told us was that 30% increase that we're seeing is lower acuity calls that certainly need attention, but aren't necessarily life-threatening. And so we sat there and said, are we putting the best resources? We bring on more resources to tackle what's taking place. Are we putting the best resource out there? I.e., more paramedics, more firefighters. And we just said, I don't know if we are. And the other thing that we're really good in the fire service is trying to get upstream. We try to prevent fires. We try to prevent things from happening before they take place and get worse. Yet we do almost none of that on the EMS side. We wait till people are really sick. We wait till they're really in trouble. Then we're there and ready to respond. And we thought, what if we can get upstream before, conditions become life-threatening? How do we make that happen as well? So what we ended up doing was we ended up putting together this physician associate program. One of the benefits that comes with having a mid-level provider is that they can write prescriptions. They can also refer people. And one of the things that kind of came together post-COVID as well was, and I'm sure you've seen on the front page of the paper, is, our emergency rooms in Washington State are backing up to an unprecedented level. Our medic units are going there and they are waiting sometimes as much as 4, 5, 6 hours on the pavement outside of the emergency room, waiting to just get their patient inside the front door. Now that has relieved itself somewhat, but what is happening and what we see happening is that people are struggling to get medical help in a timely fashion. And certainly here in a rural community. Right now, if I've got a problem or I got something, as I stated in the article, that I need attention for, I'm calling my primary care provider and I'm being told, well, we can see you maybe 8 weeks, 10 if you're lucky. Well, I don't have 10 weeks to wait. I'm struggling right now. My daughter has an earache right now. I have an infection right now. I don't have 10 weeks. Urgent care is closed, it's after hours, whatever the case might be. And so what we see happening more and more is that 911 and then the emergency room is becoming the medical, destination of choice because people are really lost and not sure of exactly where to go. And of course, we see a lot of folks without insurance. Healthcare is a very, very, very costly proposition. And so what we find is that people are not accessing healthcare earlier on because it's unaffordable or unattainable, whether by cost or by scheduling. And so this condition gets worse and gets worse and gets worse. We're calling 911 and now we're getting involved. When we get involved, we're not cheap. And I say we, the entire system, to get through the emergency room doors, you're starting your bill at about $4,000 and then going up, not to mention the ambulance transport that goes with it. And you sit there, from a treatment standpoint, when the fire department goes out, we've got one of two options when we're trying to figure out what we're going to do in a particular scenario. And one is transport to the emergency room, and the other is leave somebody at home. There is nothing in between. And when I say leave somebody at home, we hope that they follow up. They're going to be told 10 weeks. They don't know how to navigate the system, and we're probably going to be back in a couple of days as they get lost doing what they do. And so we just said, what? How about if we have a good portion of our patients that fall somewhere in between leaving at home and taking to the emergency room? Why don't we provide a resource in North Mason that can go out into people's homes and provide that at a fraction of the cost? And so, take, for example, a simple infection. We go out and treat that infection, take them to the emergency room and whatnot. Obviously, it's probably more end stage, but we've now charged these people $5,000 for something that we could probably get taken care of with a $15 medication, and that's exactly what we're doing right now. So, one of the things that, thanks to the grant, thanks to Public Hospital District Number 2 and Dr. Hoffman and a couple other partners that came together and said, how are we going to make this happen? We do have the PA who's on staff, and what's happening is our, if you call 911, you will automatically get paramedics and firefighters. That does not change. Every 911 call, our paramedics are going out. But one of the things that's now in their toolbox is sitting there and saying, hey, you've got to go to the emergency room. They're now saying, hey, we can have a mid-level provider in your house here probably in about 20 minutes, or a next day, if it's after hours, it can be next day. And we don't need to take you to the emergency room. We don't need to have you suffer. We don't need to have you try to follow up in your patient care provider, in 10 weeks from now. We've got a resource that's available right now. And we take a look at it from a cost saving standpoint. If you can keep somebody out of the ICU, you take a simple infection. If you can treat it early on, compared to becoming septic, a septic ICU stay of several days is running somewhere in excess of about $125,000, and it is a life-threatening condition. And so what we're trying to do is convince people that, hey, you know what, you do have a place to go. It's been a little bit of a challenge because, fire departments has always been known for 911, and we don't want to bother you. And we only call you when it's the worst particular situation. And now we're trying to change the narrative to say, hey, call us early on, call us for, these what people might call nagging situations, because we want to attend to them before we need to get to a point where we're taking to the emergency room. So we've got a clinic, little clinic room that is here at the station. So we have a lot of folks that are walking in and actually being treated here at the fire station. And then I saw Adam, he was taken off today, heading out to see a patient out there in the field. And, there was a couple of examples there that were shared in the newspaper, which I won't go over again. But, we had a structure fire on Frazier Road, and a structure fire for us, that's all of our resources. We all head there. That's an all call for all of us that are in the authority. And right in the middle of the firefight, we ended up getting a call for a gentleman who said that he had an infection. He had and wanted to be transported to the hospital. And what ended up happening was, and he was just down the road from the fire, coincidentally enough, not too far from where we were. And so we ended up pulling a medic unit away to go attend to this gentleman. And we met him. He was standing in the middle of the road, and he said, "Listen, I want to be transported to the emergency room." I was in an emergency room in the area the day before. I ended up waiting for 5 hours. I was not seen, and I was released. And yet this has gotten worse overnight. And then, of course, like all of us, we turned to Google to do the medical diagnosis online. And he then reads about sepsis and how infection become life-threatening. And he thought he has sepsis. And I was able to engage the gentleman. I said, "Well, no, you're not septic. The fact that you're standing here talking to me tells me that you're not there, but, knowing that this could potentially get worse." But I said, "How about instead of taking you to the emergency room, we have you go down to the fire station and meet with our provider?" And he said, "Yeah." So we ended up having one of our CRT volunteers drive him down to the station. It took our medic unit. We were able to get back to the fire. So everybody was staying local to handle that. He was given an antibiotic, which he was filled up here at Safeway. He was here for about 20 minutes. Sure enough, there was a pretty bad abscess that was taking place, and he got referred back to his dentist, who was ultimately going to be the right resource for taking care of this. That same thing would have happened in the emergency room, but that would have been at a $5,000 bill, and it would have taken a medic unit out of service and out of the area for about 2.5 hours as we're trying to tackle this fire down on Frazier Road. But that's just really what we wanted. That's exactly what we wanted to happen. And so we're seeing, anywhere between 4 and 5 patients a day. So, our book of business is, and it's not really business, but our book of seeing people and serving customers is growing. And the other thing that was in the article is that, we give our provider to do, the time to do what they need to do. So, I think as he saw, when you're in a primary care practice, it's profit driven model. Boom, 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 go, 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 15 minutes. You're seeing 35 patients a day, and that's a struggle. We are going to get busier, so we're going to have to certainly be efficient with who we're seeing and how we're seeing patients. But, I've given Adam the directive, and he's our provider, to go out there and spend the time that's necessary. If it's an hour, it's an hour. If it's 2 hours, if it's 2 hours. And there's sometimes it's been, several hours making sure we work through a case. But that is much more beneficial than having, it become something that does become life-threatening and ends up in an emergency room. So, we're calling ourselves a pilot program. We're being watched closely by the State Department of Health. We are the first in the state. And so it was tough for the state to say, "Hey, here's your authorizing legislation. Here's a model you can go after." We're building it as we go. And so we've got a lot of people keeping an eye on us. We went to our insurance company, and I'll end with this story. We went to our insurance company, which is the largest insurer for fire protection agencies across the nation, insuring probably, I would say, somewhere in the probably 75 to 80% of the fire protection jurisdictions in the country. And so we went to them. They said, "Well, we've never heard of this." And the underwriters said, "Absolutely not. We don't understand the level of risk that you're taking on. This is not what fire departments do. We don't understand anything about it. The answer is no, you will not be insured." So I was frustrated. I said, well, I'm not going to take no for an answer. So we ended up getting with our local insurance representative, and we actually got a meeting with our representative, a risk management representative there at the company. And the risk management representative, I asked him what his role was, and he said, well, my thing is that before coming to the insurance company, I had 30 years as a paramedic. And the underwriters have no idea what it is you're talking about. You're talking all this medical jargon, and they talk risk. You're not talking the same language. My job is to take what you're going to say about the program and translate it over to risk. And so he goes, I'm not here to make the decision. So got a 30-minute discussion with him. And I said, you can either be, I said, we might be the first one that's coming to you, but we won't be the last. And you can either, be a participant and actually be a change agent and support that with one little entity where you can start building and monitoring risk, or you can be the company that says no to what is really kind of the next evolution. And so I had to wait 2 weeks after that meeting, and sure enough, we're the first to be insured in the country with this particular program. So we've done a lot of work. We are having tremendous successes with it. We're not here to, one of the things that we are not primary care providers. We bridge the gap between, hey, I need something right now, and getting in 10 weeks. So we don't have long-standing, arrangements with our patients, but we're seeing the dollar savings, and we're seeing the impact as we speak. So I'm beyond 15 minutes. I apologize for that, but I appreciate you hearing me out today, because we are super excited by the program.
Well, as am I. I think it is a success, and I think it's just going to grow. And I do think it's kind of like a pilot project for others to emulate. So you're working out the kinks, and I think that this is going to be a step forward. I bet people are super excited. I know I am. Commissioner, any comments or questions for Beau?
I was the one he brought this to originally, and I got to tell you, I've said it a million times, I'm not smart enough to have all the answers, but I am smart enough to know when I hear them. And when he was done with that initial description, I not only could see how clearly this is going to be beneficial to everybody in my community, I could see how it was going to become the next step in evolution on how we're treating people. My father-in-law is on hospice, and how that is done is amazing. They show up with 4 people that go through all these things, and then they call and bring up on screen a doctor in Phoenix, Arizona. That's just how it does. And from that, the rest comes about. This is that thing that's in between that may be able to bring that immediate services to all these people. I don't just see it as an actual simple stopgap, because I think it's going to expand well beyond that. It already is. I don't know how you can keep that genie in the bottle, though. I just don't, because it's going to be so much easier. It's going to be probably more efficient. Imagine having patients and stuff that you may actually know. Go back to that again. It doesn't happen anymore. It gets less and less common. So no, I think the county for letting my community be the guinea pig, I guess you'd say, on that, and for showing faith in Beau. But again, Chief, everything you guys touch turns into a success. We go back to you and me sitting at those tables for the opioid stakeholders in the beginning, and these things go over and over and over again. So everything you touch, I'm willing to look at and listen and laugh like heck as we watch it be successful, because sometimes that's just how it works. So thank you for all that, and thank you for bringing an update to all of us. The truth of the matter is, I still know, even with your 15 minutes, you didn't come close to all the things that it's doing, let alone everything it's about to do. So good luck on all that, and hopefully we can help you in the future as you expand, because everybody else is going to be doing it here shortly.
Yeah, and maybe if I could just 30 seconds. So mobile x-ray, we're doing labs in the field. We're doing ultrasound in the field. We're doing medication reconciliation in the field. We're doing discharge planning in the field. And I'm hitting the highlights. So, just about anything you can get in an urgent care, almost to what you can get in an emergency room, it's happening in people's homes. When our responders go out, they pull out their phone before they leave, and they go, hey, what time do you want to meet with Adam? He's got availability, later on this afternoon at 5 o'clock, and they punch in schedule, an alert goes to Adam. dutifully down he goes. And so, you know, the ARPA funds that have come in, that's, you know, he has a response vehicle, mobile X-ray. I mean, we're buying the equipment that is needed to give him, you know, because you know, we didn't have it obviously previously, but it's giving him top of the line equipment to go out there and serve the community. So thank you for that.
No, thank you. You're definitely an asset to Mason County. I said it over and over and over, but Mason County absolutely does rock.
Absolutely does. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Beau.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for the update. Truly appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's jump back in time. Lisa, feels like I just saw you.
Right? I'm sorry, I was late. You know how it is, you look at the clock and it was 9:45 and then it was 10:01. I don't know where it went this morning. So, and I was having computer issues on top of it. So I am here and I apologize for being late, but I have to say that, you know, Beau's presentation will be much more exciting than mine. So first up, I have before you a resolution to amend the amount of the change funds for the clerk's office. Charles Rhodes has asked that their 2 drawers that they currently have, which are $50 each for a total of $100, be increased to $250 each for a total of $500. So a difference of $400. This allows them to make more change for those fines and fees that are coming in without having to continually go to the bank and get additional funds. So to cover that.
And Lisa, this is your recommendation as well, right?
This is my recommendation, yes.
Then I'm in favor of it moving forward.
As am I.
And then the next thing I have for you, when the finance committee met earlier this month, we talked about the ability to invest those funds that are currently not needed for immediate expenditure for the health department and community services department. And so the finance committee brought that recommendation forward, is bringing that recommendation forward to the board to allow the treasurer to invest those funds on behalf of those 2 county departments. So that's my next item.
It's so funny
resolution,
because we make it seem like the advisory board comes up with this the fiduciary responsibility that you take on behalf of this county. It came from you. You never let us down. You're exceptional at your job, and when you make a recommendation like that to us and we're sitting in that meeting, it's a no-brainer for all of us. So first, let me just thank you for all of your great work, because you've taken care of this county for longer than I've been here. But since I've been here, I don't know that we ever challenge you, because you are very exceptional at your job. So Commissioner Trask, I'm in favor of moving this one forward. Simple enough.
Right.
In fact, we're benefiting by it. So
right. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Supported. Absolutely.
All right, perfect. That's all I have for you today. I'm going to go back to collecting property taxes for you. They are due, actually Sunday is the due date. So we'll be collecting through Monday, but we have lines out the door this morning. So I'll let you get back to your business and I will get back to mine. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Well, let's move on to, man, we're only 3 minutes behind. This is awesome. Let's move on to Public Works and Loretta.
Come on, Loretta, make up 3 minutes for us. No, just kidding.
Howdy, howdy.
Hi.
Sorry, I had to hustle back out of Richard's office.
Don't worry.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Take her away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just saying, take her away.
Okay. So first up, commissioners, we are requesting to put an RFP for our solid waste long haul transport and disposal contract on the street. And Richard's here to tell you a little bit more about that.
Morning, commissioners.
Morning.
Well, this is a very old contract. It's been renewed a couple of times. It's actually this August, it'll be 30 years old. So this is a great time, I think, to put it back out on the street and see what we get. Yeah, we're looking to go out right away, and hopefully we'll get this closed up and a new contract before August 23rd.
All right, well, I'm supportive. I know that we've had conversations about this, so I'm supportive. Commissioner Netherland?
Our current hauler has been very, very, very good to this county and has allowed us to do many different things. And I hope everybody understands this is not because of anything where we are unhappy with their services, but at some point it has to go back out. It's the responsibility of this commission to make sure that we do everything properly and to make sure that we come about the best opportunities for the county. And in order to do that, the only way to do it is to go back out. And I want to thank you for all your hard work, because I know you guys had to do a lot of work to do this. And I know that there's many in the community that will appreciate it when it's all over with. So thank you for all that. And I'm very supportive of putting on the agenda ASAP, because we actually are behind under the gun on this one, and we need to get it out as soon as we can.
And I would agree with what you had to say about our current hauler. They've been great to work with.
Yeah.
Great, agreed. So do you want this on the agenda for tomorrow?
Yes, please.
Okay,
I'm supportive.
Yep, and then Kelly's laid out an aggressive schedule, so we're ready to advertise right away and make sure that we've got some breathing room as we move through the process.
all right.
Yeah.
Mark, Diane McKenzie? An amendment or an adjustment to the schedule agenda.
All right.
All
And
right,
then
let's
just
take that
a big hats off to Richard, because he took a look and did quite a bit of research in preparing the RFP, and that's not an easy thing. And I very much appreciate his great work on putting this together.
Right, I've had some of the folks over from the Public Works Board say that he reached out to them. So I appreciate him extending and reaching out to more of the SMEs. It's perfect.
Also, a commendation for you, Commissioner Trask, because it could have went a different way, and I appreciate you being so open-minded enough to make sure we go through a process that we should. I know that you were part of that decision, so thank you for that. That's well done.
Part of the job, right?
All right, commissioners. So next up we have Mindy Harlow, and hopefully, am I seeing Mindy on here?
I see her.
Okay,
Yes,
awesome.
I'm here.
And Mindy is going to present an update on some work down at the Salmon Center, and as it relates to our road, Roselle Road, that is the access to the Salmon Center. So thanks, Mindy. It's all you.
Yeah, so I have a PowerPoint presentation. May I share my screen?
Yes, share away.
Okay, let's see here. So there we go. So does that look okay to everybody? It doesn't look out of proportion? Okay, great.
Nope,
Thank
good.
you. So thank you, commissioners and Loretta, for the opportunity to present our project today. I know that you two have met me, but I did want to introduce my partner at the Department of Fish and Wildlife, Chris Waldbillig. And then Andy Hokett is also on the Zoom call. He's my project manager who is managing this project for us. So we've been working together with Public Works to complete a levee removal and flood risk reduction project in Belfair. So it's actually located on what's currently North Mason School District property on the Feller Wetlands. And I presented this project in 2019 to the TIP CAP because it does involve a trail. And so the TIP CAP was a good venue for me to kind of update the project. So I'm sure you're all aware of the importance of this trail system, not just to the North Mason community, but also to the county as a whole. The trail system was developed in 1990, in the 90s, through a partnership with the Department of Fish and Wildlife, Department of Natural Resources, the school district, as well as multiple other community partners. The trail is visited by thousands of school children and daily trail walkers. Here's an aerial view of the trail system. Most of the trail resides atop a levee system that was placed into the estuary sometime around the 1940s. In 2012 and 2013, the Hood Canal Salmon Enhancement Group and the Department of Fish and Wildlife collaborated on an estuary restoration project that opened up the levee system in 2 locations in order to restore about 30 acres of estuary and salt marsh habitat. So the 2 red lines are the 2 bridges that now allow for, the North Bridge allows for floodwaters from the Union River to access the estuary. And then the South Bridge, which is longer, allows for tidal inundation of the estuary during high tides. So unfortunately, in around 2012, 2013 or 14 timeframe, a levee that is south of our restoration project site experienced a breach that went unnoticed. The breach is located at the corner of this L-shaped levee that you see circled there. The breach was a result of a failed tide gate and culvert. As you can see, the water is flowing underneath the tide gate and culvert in the photo taken here in 2014. By that time, the safety of the trail became compromised. So that flagging tape along the edges of the trail there was just to make sure people stayed in the middle of the path and didn't veer away from the middle of the path and fall in. Then in 2015, we placed a temporary bridge, but eventually the breach outgrew the span of that bridge and the section of trail had to be closed. And by 2017, the breach in the levee grew to about a 6-foot gap. And it grows each time tidal waters flow in and out of the previously impounded area. And then the high tide waters flood the trail and also flood Roselle Road. So currently trail users are routed onto Roselle Road in order to get around the breach in the levee, which is not a great long-term solution due to the safety issues. It's Roselle Road is the access to the Salmon Center property. And so there are lots of cars that drive down Roselle Road, and it's a bit of a blind corner because the trailer park that's right there at the corner has a lot of shrubs growing on the edge of the road. And so it's not a very good visibility location for pedestrians. And then it also causes some flooding of the road, as I mentioned. And so this project here will kind of address the flooding of Roselle Road, but then also the accessibility of the trail. So allowing folks to use a different path on the trail. So this is just another visual showing the breach in the levee and its proximity to the Union River Estuary Restoration Site and Roselle Road's proximity to the estuary. Can you see my cursor on the screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So the yellow line is Roselle Road and the levee breach is right here. So high tides come in and flood Roselle Road. There's the levee breach. So this is a photo taken from the corner of Roselle Road. So you can see that line of shrubs along here, which is kind of a visual barrier for anybody driving on the road to see pedestrians. But the red arrow on this photo indicates where it's taken from, the photo point. And basically Roselle Road becomes completely impassable for several hours. And the septic drain field for the mobile home park also becomes inundated during these high tide events. So the drain field is located over here. So just another visual. I did want to point out that this photo was taken on January 13th, and it wasn't even the severe king tides that we had in December of 2022. It was this January event was quite a bit lower tide than what we experienced in December.
And so, Mindy, are people walking alongside the fence that's right there?
Yes. So, and then right where that truck is parked, there's a detour that takes them back onto the levee system. So,
Okay.
So they're walking from this gate all the way along the fence to access the the trail system. So this is just a picture of the flooded trail. So you can see this detour sign is where there's a gate that allows people to get onto Roselle Road to get back onto the trail. And so again, here's another arrow over here that points out where the photo was taken. This is Roselle Road here. So I just wanted to show kind of the current conditions at the levee breach. This photo was taken fall of last year. And it's, you know, the breach has gotten significantly worse over time. So as I mentioned before, I presented to the TIPCAP back in 2019. And at that time, the scope of our project involved installing a setback levee and removing the original levee. So we were going to put a setback levee in here to protect Roselle Road and remove this entire length of levee. And, you know, that would have solved the problem with the flooding and provided access, but it would also have had some significant wetland impacts because this forested area is a forested wetland. And we definitely don't want to be putting fill material into a forested wetland. So we're trying to avoid that. After a lot of further analysis with Public Works and with our engineers at the Department of Fish and Wildlife, we've concluded that the best path forward is to instead elevate Roselle Road, remove the old levee, and build an elevated boardwalk in the footprint of the old levee. This will minimize wetland impacts, protect Roselle Road and the trailer park septic drain field from flooding, and provide pedestrian access far away from the county road. It's also important for us to remove this levee system because of juvenile hood canal summer chum, which are an ESA listed species that utilize the Union River estuary. So our plan is to elevate Roselle Road to 15 feet, which will match the existing levee system that runs along the south side of our previously restored estuary site. So again, I just wanted to point out the importance for juvenile salmon. Because I am a salmon habitat restoration practitioner, it's my job to tell you that. And it's also a very important habitat for other migratory waterfowl. So there are hundreds of birders that come to this site to view not just waterfowl, but a lot of other songbirds. And so it's just such an important area, such a gem in our community. So we've been working with folks at the county, Public Works, and our DFW engineers to come up with a preliminary design. And at this time, we have funding for the elevation of Roselle Road, removal of the levee, which we hope to have take place over the next couple of years. And when I had presented to the Paths and Trails Fund the TIPCAP back in 2019, they had made a recommendation to the commissioners to support the project with $130,000 from the Paths and Trails Fund. But after talking with Mike Collins and Loretta at Public Works, it really doesn't make sense to use those funds for this project because it's really a road project, not a pedestrian or path kind of trail kind of project. So I've been talking with Loretta about the possibility of utilizing some road funds to help support the elevation of Roselle Road. So we've gathered funds from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Salmon Recovery Funding Board, the Estuary and Salmon Restoration Program, NOAA, and some private donations, and hoping to use $130,000 from the road fund to complete the elevation of Roselle Road. Through an MOU with the county, which I will be working on with Loretta over the next few months. So at this point, I don't have any other information to share, but would love to answer any questions that you might have about the project, the importance of the project to the community. Yes, Roselle Road at that location only serves the Salmon Center property, but it's really important to know that there are hundreds of people that come down there to access the trail system. So it's not just a benefit to the Salmon Center or the Hood Canal Salmon Enhancement Group. It's a benefit to all of the folks who drive down that road to access the trail system. So I just wanted to point that out too. So yeah, any questions?
Great presentation. Commissioner Netherland, you want to go first? Nope, you have to unmute yourself, buddy.
I got a lot on this one. I wish I had seen this much earlier, Mandy. Just for a background, Commissioner Trask, I actually was the chair of the Mary Feller Community Center for years. Right before this happened, there was a lot that had occurred. No budget booked for 2 years. There was a collapse. What I put together ended up lasting an additional 12 years. But I have a special place in my heart for this particular location. And the reason why I say I wish I'd have seen it is I did not know that there was an intent to tear out all of the old levee. That more than breaks my heart because I know how spectacular and how important that is to my community. And I don't know why that has to be a necessity when we should have fixed it, of course, years ago. This occurred after I left. It wasn't, and it's not Mendy's responsibility. Also, I wanted to say, especially back then, I know they've taken on different roles now, but back then it wasn't their responsibility. Okay, it is what it is, and it happened, and it was what it was. I still think there should be an effort put to fixing that and putting that back together again. I don't say that as a in lieu of this. I think that I hope you will reconsider the one and look for funding to fix that through the Parks and Trails or through the Trails Fund to fix that trail while you're still looking to do this as well. I can see this being a double fix, and the cost that you have for removing the levee, I'm really not understanding. Only $62,500 to remove that levee. How is that even possible? That's
let me go back to a slide that shows
Please.
the aerial view. Yeah, so the levee was developed from digging out a borrow ditch along
Yep.
this
I
side.
remember. Yep.
And then also there's a low spot here. And then
Yep.
there are these channels that are, obviously man-made because of their straight alignment. So we don't have to haul a lot of the material off site. So the material, because it is previous salt marsh soil, can just be utilized for bringing that borrow ditch back up to elevation and this other area here back up to elevation. And I do want to say, Commissioner Netherland, that we had to do an alternatives analysis to determine what was feasible for this restoration work. It was basically determined that we can't put the levee back in place the breach in the levee. We can't fix the breach in the levee because it's already being utilized by salmonids. And so since there are ESA listed species that utilize that, it's basically a new forming estuary. They're utilizing that. And so we can't take away habitat. And so removing the existing levee system, just this, L-shaped part that's in yellow, will open up more habitat, which will allow us to get the elevation of Roselle Road permitted, because as you build roads up, you obviously have to have a larger road prism. So there will be lower wetland impacts by elevating this roadway instead of putting in a setback levee along the edge of Roselle Road. And then, if we were to just put a bridge in over where the breach in the levee has occurred, Roselle Road would still flood.
Yes.
So I think. Go ahead.
And I understand that completely. And remember, I was Corn Council, so I understand your argument when it comes to it is now salmon habitat, and it can't just be taken away. I get that one, and I'll give you that because I didn't think about that beforehand. But with that being said, I still think though you can harden the sides of that, put a bigger footbridge or even an actual bridge. The cost for buying those things, we use them at the county right now to span very large areas. and do the road raising. I'm not
Mm.
saying either or.
Yeah, okay, great.
I just don't want to see the other taken out and that lost. The habitat that's already been created is already there now. Good. I'm down with that. We can have both. And that kind of just hardening that one area, I think that money should come out of the trails fund and to buy the bridge to maybe do that and harden it. But that's not up to me. That's up to a lot of others first before it comes to us. But I see it as two projects, and I hope you will consider not making this one. You know me, I've been around for a long time. I'm not always the best fan of these restoration projects because I quite often think they go too far and it chases the dollars and stuff. That's how I've always been. I see this as one of them when we can have both, the best of both worlds. My community can keep something that they've used and loved for so many years, including myself. I just hope you will consider more than one option. But I am not going to stand in the way of what you're doing on this other part. Please don't misunderstand me. I think that it is going to be necessary. It will be beneficial. And yes, I know it benefits the Salmon Center, but it benefits all of them at the same time. And I'm not excluding it because there's a benefit to one organization too. And I don't think it should be excluded for that purpose. So
Great.
that's a lot, Commissioner Trask, but this one's very dear to me, and that whole thing was all under my responsibility for some years, and I took a lot of beatings to get it taken care of and loved and protected at one point because the community, everybody, there was a big turn. And thank you, Mindy, for everything that you've put forward on this. Please consider those other options.
Yeah, thanks for bringing this forward. It reminds me of the Billy Frank Jr. project that they did out there, restoring that estuary. I thought that, they've made huge improvements out there, and this kind of just reminds me of that as well. So can you tell me, so a couple of questions. The pipe that was used in there, was that just cement?
No, so it's a galvanized metal pipe that was surrounding an aluminum and HDPE tide gate. So it's what happened was the corrugated metal rusted out and started to allow water to flow immediately next to the soil, and it basically eroded away the soil of the levee surrounding the tide gate.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So it was a bad design in the first place with the galvanized pipe. You don't use galvanized material in a saltwater environment like that.
And if you saw that actual gate, you look at it and go, that works?
Yeah.
I mean, it was so simplistic, it was almost crazy. Just a cover that would flap with the tide, so when the water's pushing against it, it kept it closed, and then when it's not, it went the other way. It was really
Wow.
simplistically genius.
Wow. Well, and I'd like to hear from Chris, if he doesn't mind, just share your thoughts regarding this project, elevating a road. That's a big decision, but protecting a lot of what we have to protect by law and because we should. And so if you could just share a little bit of your thoughts with us, that would be great.
Sure. Thank you, commissioners, for the chance to present this morning. Yeah, I'm kind of stepping into this project as our previous project manager moved on. But I've been around Feller for a long time. I've worked in Mason County for a long time in our habitat program. I'm really excited for this project. I will note that Commissioner Netherland, that we do plan to put a boardwalk in the same footprint as the existing levees that are going to be removed. So the trail will still be there, and actually it'll be in the same footprint there. The design's not final for that, but we're taking into consideration things like viewpoints for the community kind of at the corners where there's like an old bench and an apple tree, I believe, at that corner. So definitely things we're taking into consideration. It is an exciting spot to work. We have seen both adult chum and adult coho salmon kind of moving in that little stream. It's not really much of a spawning stream. It is great rearing habitat for juvenile salmonids. The estuary is so important for juvenile salmon that are kind of coming out of that freshwater and finding finding low energy areas to rear, to grow before they start their migration, so that whole vicinity, the whole area there is really important. Another part of this project is adding a larger culvert kind of right where the emergency access road lies. Right there. We have seen there's kind of a scour pool from the existing, I believe, 18-inch culvert there. And that scour pool has had, in a single sweep with a net, I've caught, 20 juvenile summer chum in one sweep. And I've seen juvenile coho in there that again are not spawning in that stream, but they're finding that stream to rear, and they stay there for they stay there and they stay throughout those wetlands for a year. So great habitat. Again, the birds, we saw the other day, we saw a great blue heron catch a mouse while we were all out there. It's not something you would think of, but he got it and kind of walked away with it. It was pretty interesting to watch. So yeah, and like I said, benefit for fish, benefit for wildlife, and again, the trail users. I think they're really going to enjoy the boardwalk. Just kind of similar to the boardwalk that's just to the south here. There's the one-way wooden boardwalk that goes out there. So exciting project.
Great, thank you for sharing your thoughts. Now, this is also this is not on the list of a salmon barrier, correct?
I don't know if it's ever been evaluated for fish passage.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the 18-inch one has been evaluated. It's a tricky site because it's tidal, right? You have at high tide, you have water flowing upstream, and then at low tide, it's obviously flowing out. So it has been evaluated, but it takes one of our engineers some time to figure it out. But ultimately, it is going to be replaced. I believe we're talking about a 15-foot culvert, but that's kind of preliminary also.
And that'll be there where the emergency access is.
Yes, kind of right at the intersection of the yellow dotted line and the green dotted line. Yep, right there.
Yeah, right there. And I do want to point out too that this blue line is a proposed new channel for that creek. It's not the existing creek. The existing creek goes directly from the culvert breach straight through here and then into this area.
Okay, you're gonna have to walk me through this area. I would love to put my feet on the ground.
Yeah, we'd be more than willing to do that for sure.
Okay, and that way I can get. I'm very visual, and so if I can see it, maybe Loretta, you could go with us. That would be great. All right, so it's been presented to TIPCAP back in 2019. Right?
Yeah, and I presented last week as well on the 12th. So I guess a week and a half ago.
All right. I'm sure they had some good questions as well.
Yeah, they did. And I was basically updating them and letting them know that we weren't planning on utilizing the $130,000 from the Paths and Trails Fund.
Okay. Great. All right, Commissioner, do you have any other questions or comments or concerns?
No, Mandy, I'll call you later and have a few more deeper conversations about it, please.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Because I'd love to feel comfortable with this when it's all done. I support your work and everything that you've done, and I'm very proud of you. I've watched you grow up through the ranks to run that whole thing for a long time, and you're very, very good at what you do. And I very much appreciate you. Hopefully we find a way we can work together. What I think is where the community is going to fall on their desire for that area.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Loretta, do you want to share anything?
Only commissioners, if you've got any questions about the restrictions of use on the Paths and Trails Fund or where that money comes from. Any of those fun things, I'm happy.
We should have close to 300K in there now, right?
We do, and to let you know, that grows by about $10,000 per year.
Can we expend
it's a
money
percent of the motor vehicle fuel tax that's set aside.
What would it take to be able to enter into a partnership, though, to utilize those funds with entities and stuff that's not on county parks and trails? Is there an impediment to being able to do that? Because I'm still looking at both in my head. So, and I'll talk more with Mindy about that. But what impediment would that be to utilizing those funds with a nonprofit organization? DNR, does DNR own that land yet? Did they switch that over? Who's the owner now?
So the transfer hasn't happened yet, but it's going to be the Department of Fish and Wildlife. So both the Department of Fish and Wildlife Commission and the school board have voted to make it happen. It's just a matter of getting the paperwork pushed at this point. So it's imminent.
So I think, Loretta, we're in a good position with that. If that's the call, we don't have any issue or impediment with our funds, right? We can team up with another governmental entity like that, can't we?
I believe so, through an intergovernmental agreement, correct.
Could you look into that a little further just to make sure if this opportunity does come up to be able to do both? I'd like to have that conversation.
Absolutely.
What do you need, Loretta, from us when it comes to deciding if road funds are going to be used and allocated out? Usually you wait until you have you're putting together your budget and you include things. And when would we see this, if we see this?
So we can see this, well, Mindy, how soon? This is a next year expenditure, correct?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so this could come before you as part of the budget process.
Okay. So we'll make our decisions then. Okay, thank you.
You bet.
All
Great,
right,
thank you. Really appreciate the
awesome.
time.
Mandy, reach out. Let's see if we can schedule a day for you, me, and Loretta, and any others that you think would be ready for a lesson.
Yeah, that sounds great. I will do that. Thank you.
All right.
I'm going to rope Mike in on that too, because hats off to Mike. He's put a lot of time and effort and has been a great partner. I know I see Chris and Mindy nodding their heads.
Yes.
In
Yeah, absolutely.
troubleshooting and figuring out a good approach to this. So big hats off to Mike as well.
Yep. Thank you.
As always. Thank you, Mike. Thanks, Mindy. Thanks, Chris, for joining us.
Yep.
And I believe there was one other person that we should thank as well.
Oh, Andy.
Andy, there we go.
All right.
Good job, Commissioner.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right, you too.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Mindy.
Thanks.
Okay, Loretta, what do you have for us?
That's it. It's
That's
a
it?
little short agenda today.
Commissioner, do you have anything for Loretta?
I got a hold of you on something. I'm trying to remember what it was. What was the outcome on it? Remember what it was.
It's a mystery.
Yeah. You and I talked the other day. We went over some stuff. What did we talk about?
Some potholes.
Yeah.
Let's see, Razor Road, all kinds of fun things.
Okay. Oh, I did look at the potholes. That one, it looks like there is two, but that other one's pretty bad too. Both of them are pretty bad. If we can get them to even drop something in there, because he's wrong in the location he's talking about. If he hit that fence, he came out of that other driveway, which I don't even think that's county road. The one that goes up to the RV area.
No, that's private there.
Yeah, so that's not even us anyway. Because he can, if he hit the fence from Lakeland Drive, boy, he's impressive. Because that's a long ways away. Can't blame it on that pothole. Let's just say it that way. If that's the case, he would have had to been really spectacular at gaining a lot of distance off of one pothole. So thank you for helping us and looking into that.
Yeah, thanks to Jeremy.
That's all I got.
All right. Well, I've got nothing at this point in time, other than let's see if we can get out there and walk the area so that I can get a visual.
Absolutely. Yeah,
All right.
good deal. We'll get that on the books.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, commissioners.
All right, Mark. Sorry, I put you behind.
Nope, you're good. I think we can get through this pretty quick. So this is something that I brought back to the board a few weeks ago. This is a memorandum of understanding with the Arc of Peninsulas for a housing consortium. The Arc of the Peninsulas would like to enter into this MOU with Mason County. And it would be creating a consortium policy board that would be comprised of 3 to 5 members, one county commissioner, the president and CEO of the Arc of the Peninsulas, and within one state legislator from the 35th district, City of Shelton council member, and a housing authority member. And they would all serve 1-year terms. And so it would be to help cite opportunities where we could create low income and affordable housing for individuals with intellectually and developmental disabilities.
Interesting enough, though, that's only one part of it. The truth is he's doing a lot. They're being asked to be inclusive and not just specifically for that one section of the community. So just know whatever comes in the future will probably be more. The only thing I don't know by reading this is it's appointed member. So who would appoint? Is the commission appointed a commissioner? I guess is my question.
The
And
commissioner, it appears to me that it would be appointed by the CEO of the Arctic Peninsulas and whatever county commissioner was assigned.
well, that's what I'm saying. The assignment of the county commissioner would be done by the commission.
Yes.
So with that in tow, I think we need to also include that our selection, if we were to pass this for this first term, would be Commissioner Schutte. Because he brought not just because he's not here.
He's not here. Perfect. Yeah.
But I know that there has been works with all kinds of different people, but I know that he was the point person on that, and it would only make sense to have him appointed as it's passed. And the fact because he's not here. No.
I agree 100%.
Tell him there was a lot of giggling that happened when this happened for both of us. So
Well, and I think when we talked about it before, he said that he would be willing to do this. And so
yes.
I'm taking his willingness as him nominating himself.
As am I, so put it in the verbiage.
I can do that. That'll be fun. And I think his birthday's coming up. We'll tell him it's his happy birthday present.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. Here you go.
So I'm supportive.
Yep, as am I. We'll put a tag on a bottle of wine.
Perfect.
Here
Thank
you
you.
go.
I will get this on our agenda so that we can get it before the board to officially pass it in a regular meeting.
I had an email this morning. This one from Nicole was taken out.
Okay.
Yep,
Did you receive the same email, Commissioner Trask?
Yep, I did.
Okay, so yeah, that one from Nicole has been asked to be removed.
Yeah.
So one administrator update for you guys. There's currently a process in place for the commissioners to sign off on any expenditures that come out of the treatment sales tax, or there's another fund, 117. Diane, can you help me on what the other fund was?
So,
Or Jen?
did you say treatment sales tax, the TST, and then the community services, the 117 for the community housing, all the different funds that go into that?
So this is where we pay some of our local nonprofits like Crossroads and Community Lifeline and some of those items. So it appears that this has been in place for a while, where the commissioners wanted to kind of have an extra set of eyes on any expenditure that was coming out of those funds. And so you will get invoice vouchers that's placed on your signing counter for you guys to sign off before that payment can be processed. And so it definitely adds an extra step in the sense that you are already technically approving it when you approve your warrants in your regular agenda. But this was actually bringing them out and highlighting them a little bit more so that you could put your eyes on it before the money was released. I feel like we have a great team in our public health department that is reviewing these and verifying that they're in compliance with the funds that are being spent. So I have faith in them to do that, and you are approving the individual contracts that we set up with these entities to provide those services. So what I'm asking is, in the essence of getting these payments processed quicker, could we remove that extra step that we have in place for having the commissioners sign off on those?
How about baby steps? How about we because I trust but verify. I can't help it. That's who I am. But I would be comfortable with our administrator still looking at them and signing off on that. That wouldn't bother me. I'm just not ready to get rid of all step personally, just to make sure. Because if there is something, you need more eyes on it just to make sure there's nothing. Not that we've ever had it, but it could. It's just too much money flowing through there. More eyes is better.
Well, and if I can add also, that step that we had in place was not ever done by action. It was just out of courtesy.
Mhm.
And like Mark said, we do have a really good team in place, and it is the treatment sales tax at least is checked by the budget office and then the auditors and the treasurer's office. So it just seems like overkill on that one, and to have it checked by a commissioner as well, or the county administrator as well.
Well, I'm one of the people that I do still look at those, and I try to keep track of all things we're doing on the broader picture as we look at expending those monies. But like I said, for myself, I'd be comfortable at least having the administrator still look at it and sign it off at the end. Maybe in another year or two, we should do something else, but that's where I'm still at. I don't mind the commissioners do it. There's no effort for us hardly. It gives us the opportunity to still look at it. You know me, I always think we need to do our job, but I'd be comfortable with relinquishing that and just letting the administrator.
Yep, I'm fine with that. And then maybe we can put a date on there to review it. And that way it's not something that we say, yeah, we're going to review in a year or two, and then we forget that we were going to review it in a year or two. So if there's something you can put on the.
I feel like I've gotten involved in the administration of these contracts at a detailed level, so I'm familiar with them, and I do think that I could turn them around maybe quicker than getting the commissioner's signature on there. So I would be happy to sign off on those and make sure that they get out. I think that my concern is more for our nonprofit entities that are expecting these monies, and they tend to use these as funds to operate. And so if we don't get them processed quickly, then they have trouble making payroll sometimes because they are funded at such a lean level.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, quicker turnaround is important.
Yep.
Well, and Mark, what if you're not here? I mean, right now, this.
Then I'll assign it to Diane.
Okay, I mean, so we're going to put this in as an official. I feel like we went from a non-official, signing process to now it's an official signing process. So
It's no, I'm not proposing anything official, Jennifer, and it's just this is an opportunity during our briefings to just talk to usually all three commissioners at once. And so, yeah, I did not find anything in place in terms of a resolution or a requirement. I think it was just something that the commission had asked for. And before I recommended changing that, I wanted to get it before all three commissioners so that they could understand what that change would be. So I don't think that we need to do anything formal with it outside of have this open discussion about it and move forward with it. But we can definitely review it again here in a little while. And I suspect with our current team that we have in place right now, that when we do review it again, that I'll feel very comfortable with making sure that it follows the normal process of all the other vouchers and invoices that are processed.
So I'll make sure that both Mark and myself are on the signature authority with the auditor's office for both of those funds.
That works.
Thanks,
And then-
Diane.
You're welcome. And I had one thing, it's not on there. Last week, we talked about the RCO grants for parks, which I know we're declining. And this morning, we got the language that we need to have the commissioners vote on. So I wanted to put that on tomorrow's agenda.
Yep, sounds
Okay.
good.
Thank you.
Commissioner Trask, mark the calendar. That was a request from Diane Zorn to add it on tomorrow's calendar. Just make sure you mark that and notice that.
Well, since we were already amending for something
Yeah.
else.
Sure, good excuse.
Yeah, I made a note of that, Commissioner Netherland.
Very good. I'm gonna put it on my calendar too.
Uh-huh. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Jen, did you have anything else that you'd like to talk with the board about that we could do
Yes,
under
I have.
administrative update?
Oh, sorry, did you say Diane or Jen?
Jen.
Oh, yes, I have two things. So Mike Oblazalo with Hood Canal Communications, he is on vacation this week. And so I talked to Brooke Ogg and she suggested May 8th, that might be a better date for him to come and brief the board on his request for ARPA funding.
Yeah, I'd say whenever it's convenient for them to come on in.
Okay.
Bless you,
great.
Mark.
Thank you. I couldn't hit mute fast enough. Sorry.
And then the other thing is the Crossroads housing contract that we have, it's ARPA funds of $10,000. That contract for the poor and infirm veterans to provide assistance to them has expired as of December 31st of 22. And so I just wanted to make you aware of that. And so we can bring that contract back and amend it. And, you know, as long as Crossroads wants to continue that contract, I just wanted to make sure that you want to do that, commissioners.
I'm always supportive of the veterans, but at the same time, I still have the same belief when it comes to the Hood Canal money, it comes to any of the money. We have another request from Belfair, which, you know, I definitely would support, but I don't support at the same time. I think everything comes back in for a process, and out of that process, we make selections of where those dollars go. I don't think we should be doing it piecemeal, piece here, piece there. We have a contract. When the money's done, it comes back in, and then we reallocate it through another process where everybody gets to apply. That's where I'm at. So,
yeah, and I think also I would like to see if this is a priority for them. You know, are they able to manage it, and if you know if there's something else that might be a better way to help the veterans other than the way that it's being handled now. You know, I guess just reaching out to them to see if they still want to do this, or if it's benefiting our veterans.
Okay.
If it's not, let's reevaluate.
Okay, great. Yeah, Kate sent an email out this morning, just making sure that they want to continue the contract. So yeah, we can definitely talk to them and make sure that it's the best way to support them.
Great.
And I don't think, I think that the Commissioner Netherland has a valid point, right? As we get through some of these contracts and individuals have spent the money that they, you know, maybe they didn't spend as much as they thought they were going to expend. We just signed a contract to do a fiber upgrade for the county, and it came in lower than what the commissioners had dedicated out of ARPA funds to do that project. And so there's going to be some money coming back in. Commissioners have another opportunity to evaluate the requests that are out there and say, how would we like to spend this money? I mean, we learn about things all the time where you know, something gets brought forward to myself and I think, gosh, I wish we had some ARPA money left. We might be able to rededicate that to this project. So as that money comes back, I'm supportive of bringing it back before the board so that you can then make a determination as to whether it's still the best investment to make.
and with that, we'll add one more line to that, using one from my community as an example. We depend on them to give us the right information the first time through. If they think that it's this amount of money and that's what we agreed to do, we heavily weigh these things when we're making our decisions, and we give this percentage in order to do it. I expect them to do it within the amount that we tell them, or they ask for, or we agree to give them. If they can't, then it should come back, or if not, they borrow money to do it. Other projects, for example, using one for fiber, that's one thing we gave money for a fiber project. They need more, great, but they need to borrow money to get it. We should be looking at a new fiber project to put that money into in another community that's just as needy. But I expect them to follow through with what they tell us. I'm talking about my community right now. I've got one that just came through, and I would love to be able to help them. But the truth is, they told us an amount, and we agreed that we would expend funds for of this certain amount. I don't think we gave the full amount of what they asked for in the first place, but that was heavily weighted between all of us. We decided that funds were needed here, and here. And I think it's within their responsibility to finish it up. And if they can't, then maybe that all the funds come back. You know, I know that sounds really drastic, but if we can't count on you to give us the right numbers the first time, then I definitely don't want to be coming back for a second bite later.
So that's exactly what Kate is doing right now, Commissioner Netherland. She's reaching out to all the individuals that we've awarded money to and trying to get updates. She's more successful with some more than others. But we're continuing to poke on them and knock on the door and say, hey, make sure you let us know what's going on. And so that's the intent of bringing back these things to the board, is to, number one, give you an update to let you know that we're continually moving forward on spending down these ARPA funds, but also to bring to light individual scenarios where if they're not able to get the project that they originally intended to get done, then there's a choice that the commissioners get to make again in terms of, do we want to just bring those monies back in and reallocate them to another project that could benefit, or is there other opportunities for us to assist?
And do we go out, or do we look at the ones we already had that we denied? Because
I would say that would be dependent upon how much we have, right? So if it's justifiable and worth the cause, then 100% supportive of that.
Okay, so yeah, I wanted to clarify too that Mike coming in on the 8th would be just to talk about his ask, not to I'm not making the decision, of course, and so I just clarify that, I guess.
No, this is something that Jen and I have talked about last couple of weeks, specifically for the HCC request that we received. And I think that it requires more detail and a presentation from the requester. And so when Mike gets back, I think he can come and request from the board, or at least justify why he feels like he should be able to move some of the monies that he originally had for past due accounts that were caused by COVID and put it into a different project that they have. And so you guys can have the details.
Sounds good.
That's all the administrator updates I had for y'all.
All right. Commissioner, do you have anything for support?
Nope, thank you.
All right, thank you guys. All right, let's move on to public health. Dave, are you on there?
Yes, and I'll even unmute this time.
What? I think that's a first.
Yeah, no kidding. So our first thing, commissioners, is just a quick update on our public health and human services logic plan and work model. So you've got that in front of you. You'll see the updates are in red. On the first page, activities, reach, outcomes, you'll see all the red is in the left-hand column. And then as you get into the next 2 pages, it kind of spreads out across the document because we used a slightly different format for the other programs. But we've got a number of things that are in progress. Everything is rolling right along. I shared with Mark this morning some work around the RIA 14 that we're doing with Mott McDonald that is coming in on time, and it's very detailed. They've got the work we're getting out of them is looking really good. So sharing that with Cal and Mark, we'll be getting together and going over that. And then at the same time, we're going to see about including the tribe in that and making sure that our work on RIA 14 meets what our MOA says we should be doing and getting buy-in from the tribe. So is there any questions on that? It's pretty simple.
No questions from me.
Nope. Sorry.
Okay. So I'm going to move on to Melissa. Melissa has several things going this morning, so we're going to rocket right through those.
Good morning, commissioners.
Morning.
We do have a few things. First item is housing and essential needs amendment for Community Action Council. So it's kind of the end of the budget year. They're reallocating some unspent funds into our programs, the Department of Commerce. The housing and essential needs program it prevents homelessness and houses people who they might need help with personal hygiene products, utility payments, things like transportation. They are offering us $52,000 additional for Community Action Council's HEN program. In the interest of time, just because this grant ends at the end of June, we are asking to move it immediately to tomorrow's action agenda for approval, just so that we can get these funds out to the agency and furthermore into the community as soon as possible.
I'm supportive, Commissioner.
As am I. Actually had my finance committee meeting with CAC at noon, so this is timely.
Okay, next item is overdose data to action. So again, all of our contracts are coming to an end here between June and August of 2023. We currently are recipients of the overdose data to action funding from the state. This is what allows us to really do surveillance in our community so that we're actually getting data and we're understanding what the needs are in terms of overdose, what we can do for prevention, education, and awareness. We would like to be able to apply for this grant for the next cycle. In order to do that, we do need to submit a letter of interest, which again, in the interest of time, are asking that we move to tomorrow's action agenda because the letter of intent is due tomorrow.
Diane, open the door. I'm down. Just add away.
And I think the
Exactly what I was
draft
gonna-
letter is attached as well.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Since Diane opened the door, she's causing herself some grief.
It's her fault, man. I'm telling you.
Are there any other questions about this funding?
Nope. Sounds
Okay.
good.
Similarly, here we go. Okay. Similarly for, what is this one? There's a request for applications for a syndemic approach to infection, disease prevention, and linkage to services. Currently, this is something that currently funds our syringe service program, so our mobile outreach. And this is a new approach. This is very holistic in terms of not just touching substance abuse prevention and harm reduction services, but being able to expand our services so that we're also providing things like sexually transmitted infection testing, hepatitis C testing and screening, as well as HIV testing. So we would like to be able to apply for these funds to use it to not only continue our syringe service program, but also add other types of infectious disease testing so that we can provide linkages to providers for people who ultimately are really high risk for a lot of these other communicable diseases that are transmissible. I think the reality is the people that we engage with at Syringe Exchange are people who may have other kinds of other kinds of issues that they're dealing with that they don't seek care for because of stigma or because they don't have insurance. And so this would allow us to do this kind of work in our mobile outreach. And at this moment, we don't really know what funding is going to look like or what we're going to ask for. We just are really kind of asking for the blessing to apply for this grant. And of course, do a lot more briefings as we learn a little bit more about what we would like this program to look like.
Madam Chair, if I may for 1 second, every time we talk about this, I get inundated with people that have issues with this, and I want to remind them of why I was supportive and why I'm still supportive of some of the things we've already done. You know, I have a little park right there in Belfair that I was helping clean it up, and we picked up hundreds of syringes. Okay, and we have kids that are sometimes running through there. It's a bus stop also and all, and I couldn't help but find out and figure out that people steal those little boxes of used syringes, which means it has value. If somebody's going to steal it, it has value. So every one of them that we were able to maybe get them to exchange is one that didn't just get thrown into the park onto the ground. And so although I know I will get my phone calls for it, I need them to know that I still think that that was a great way to keep at least one needle off the ground for somebody to bump into, and I'm not apologetic for it. So I still support it. And then I wanted to just add, so what I'm hearing you say is we were hoping that when we were doing this, we would also capture some of these people's attention to get them through rehabilitation or other opportunities that would come up because they were already there exchanging the needles. We already know who they are. You're saying that you wanted to expand on that for that same class of person that is in that room to offer them other services that may stop the spread of HIV or other STDs out into our community by giving them the opportunity to get seen and taken care of or get connected with somebody that would do that there. Is that what you're saying? And so you're asking to go out to the money for that, to request that as a grant. of which there may be a match or may not, but right now you're just asking just to go after the grant and find out what we can get. Is that?
Yes.
And I'm supportive of that, Commissioner.
Yeah, I think it's important that people understand that this is not just a needle exchange. It's far more than that. This is reaching out to a population that normally wouldn't come in and see our people and learn of the other services. You know, there's addiction services. There's so many other services that we offer. It's not as simple as just a needle exchange. And so I think what I would like to do is I'm so supportive of this, like 100% behind it. But I think if we could, I know no one, you can't make everybody happy all the time, but if we can offer the education to others, knowing that this is what we're doing here. It's not supporting or pushing drug use, but it's offering services. So I think if we could maybe start changing the message, and I know that you guys have worked on this in the past too, but maybe just be a little bit more aggressive in letting people know that this is a service provided by the county, and that's what the county is here to do.
Yes.
We're here to help others.
We're not just helping people do drugs. That's not what we're doing.
No.
That's what we'll get accused of. As you know, I'm sure you get the same phone calls as I do.
Yeah.
But I, when all this was first coming about, we had a forum in Belfair at the North Mason Community Voice, and there were a lot of people upset about it. And after I stood up and finally just said the things we just said here, and that's why I wanted to say it again, the room definitely changed, and it became something that not only was it being allowed, but it was being looked forward to, especially after we had just done the cleanup. And we picked up hundreds of needles, hundreds that people, you don't understand, that a little kid walking by in their little sandals, wham. Now then, do you want that needle to have the possibility of AIDS? Do you want that needle to have the possibility of any other disease that they could do, not just the chemical that's on it? And with what we have going on right now, when it comes to fentanyl and everything else, it's just exacerbated that much more. So, Commissioner, I agree with you. Maybe we should look at another round of education of why we do these things, that it's not just to make it easier for people to do drugs. It's the opposite. It is to clean up our community, give them opportunities. What's the old expression? How many times does it take to go through these before you finally quit? There is no answer. As many times as it takes before you finally quit. It's just that one time. It may be number 72, but people on number 72, that was their one. They walk away and they never do it again.
Right,
Or they don't do it for 3 years. That's good too.
Yeah, you're planting that seed, and that seed will grow.
Yeah.
And they'll remember that somebody cared.
And I know I'm sounding passionate, but yeah, the other folks have no idea how mean people get when they call me on this one. So I already get aggressive back. Sorry.
No worries. All right, you got your support. Great. Well, we really appreciate your support. We're very excited about this. I think it's very timely. We also have our full support from our health officer, who attached a letter of support to this briefing. Finally, actually, this is kind of a little bit of a segue into the next item, allowing us to kind of pilot some of what would be a part of these expanded services. Pierce County AIDS Foundation would like to enter into a memorandum of understanding with our existing syringe exchange program to come and they get a grant to do HIV and STI, sexually transmitted infection testing. And so they have all of the infrastructure to be able to test, to bring it to the lab. And then they have navigators who also help people get connected, connected to an insurance provider if they don't have insurance, to a medical provider for treatment. And so it's really helpful also in that we've lost our surveillance of HIV in our community. I don't know how many years ago it was that the state pulled it back, but it really prevented us from doing a lot of work in terms of education, awareness. When monkeypox was kind of high rates of it across the state a few months ago, we didn't have any cases. We had, I think, one case in Mason County, but we weren't able to identify where those pockets of the high-risk populations were because we don't have that pulse on where those people are, who's positive, who is being treated, who's not. And so this will allow us to do that. The Pierce County AIDS Foundation, or PCAF for short, will provide us, in addition to doing the testing, they'll also provide us with a monthly report on what cases look like, what treatment looks like. And so they've been working very closely with Christina to put a schedule together to come out to mobile outreach, I think 2 times a month at this point between now and next May. And so we are just asking for approval to sign this MOU and again, to move it to tomorrow's action agenda, just because we've already have a schedule in place. We'd like to be able to just launch this as soon as possible.
The door's open, Commissioner. Why not?
We've been very busy. There's a lot of last minute requests here.
Commissioner?
I guess I'll support it. I'm starting to get nervous.
This is my last one. I don't have any other.
It ain't you I'm afraid of.
I'm just gonna tell her that she started it, Randy.
Yeah.
Well, can I ask, was this reviewed by our prosecutor's office? By Tim?
No, actually it was not. I should probably.
Can you make sure that it's reviewed before I agree to put it on the agenda? I'd like to know that it was reviewed by Tim.
Good catch.
So if we hear that it's been approved by Tim, then I'll agree to put it on the agenda for tomorrow. If not, we'll have to wait until our next meeting, which would be on the 9th.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
That was good. That was good. There was plenty. Thank you.
Okay, are there any questions for public health?
I don't have a question, but I have a commendation for your staff. Melissa reached out to me and to go over some of the issues and questions that I may have regarding some of our recipients of our grants and the processes that they have to go through in order to get them. The payout was not the issue. All that was taken care of. So thank you for that, for Dave on that, and Melissa again. And Melissa, another question came up yesterday, as I was meeting with some people I'd like to throw out to you to look into. One of those ones we talked about supposedly went directly to Commerce also, because they have the opportunity to go to the county and they have the opportunity to go directly to Commerce for the same money. Whether or not it's the same grant, I don't know, but the list of requirements in order to go for that grant was next to nothing in comparison to what we put forward. So could you please look at the two and look at a way, if that is the case, that we melt the two together and we're maybe a little more realistic in what we're doing, if it's that far apart. If it's not, then ignore everything I just said.
Okay, I will look into that. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to second that. I just want to make sure that we're not asking more than Commerce. Commerce makes it difficult enough. And so I would hate for us to be adding extra work on top of our nonprofits who are out there just to help people that are going through difficult times. Other than that, I have nothing.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thanks.
All right, thank you, guys. All right, Commissioner, that brings us to the bottom of our agenda. Do you have any suggestions, anything before our meeting tomorrow?
I do not.
How about a motion?
I will move, we adjourn.
All right, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.